What's up YouTube, Dar here from Zephyr War Games, and today I'm going to bring you a Gate Guardian profile. Now, unfortunately they are not on dual book yet, so I've had to use it using Neuron, and I haven't got the physical cards as of yet either. However, I will take you through this entire profile, explain why we have the lineup that we do, and then you can use the visuals to kind of build your own deck and adapt it as you see fit. With all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. So we start off with the main deck of 40 cards, and we are pretty much going to use all of the brand new Gate Guardian cards because some of them are really kind of cool in order to kind of modernise the Gate Guardian art type itself. So all of these came out in Maze of Memories, and you even got reprints of the original Kazujin, Sagan and Suijin as well, which is awesome, as well as some retrains for the Heavy Tank and the Shadow Ghoul. So we start off with 3 of the Labyrinth Heavy Tank. You can normal summon this card without tribute. It cannot attack the turn it is normal summoned. During the main phase, you can place one of your Sanga, Kazujins or Suijins that is banished, or in your hand or deck face up into your spell and trap zone as continuous spells. Then if you control a Labyrinth Wall card, you can destroy one monster your opponent controls. So the reason this is so good, and you'll see as we go through the profile, is that the deck relies on, in theory, contact fusing. So quite like ABC Buster Dragon, it does have the ability to contact fuse to get into their fusion monsters, and that's where the real power lies. Now we've obviously got 2 Suijin, we've got 2 Kazujin, but we only play 1 Sanga of Thunder. Now you could ultimately play more of this if you wanted to. I wouldn't go more than 2 per copy of each card, as their effects are a little bit more restrictive and, in theory, quite outdated. That being said, they are all special summonable off of Fusion Deployment, which you'll see a little bit later on, which is some awesome spice for this particular build. We are then also playing 2 Magician Souls and 2 Illusion of Chaos. And obviously the idea is that Illusion of Chaos searches out Magician Souls. The reason you're playing 2 and 2 is because you have the ability to resolve the special summon of Magician Souls twice, and obviously Illusion of Chaos searches it out. So you're basically playing 4 copies of Magician Souls. And then the reason that Magician Souls is so good is there are quite a lot of, or at least the Gerargado, and I'll get the exact name for a little bit later on, the trap card for the Gate Guardian is actually really cool and has a nice graveyard effect. Alongside that, there's also other graveyard effects for the brand new spells that can be utilised off the back of Magician Souls. There is additional form of synergy a little bit later on that you might see already with the form of Cartesia and Form of Albaz. These are the only branded cards in the main deck that are being involved, and it's just because I thought they were really kind of cool, spicy one-offs to play if you didn't want to go a full branded Gate Guardian route, which you can do. So, moving on to the next brand new card is the Shadow Ghoul of the Labyrinth. You get to discard this card to add 1 Labyrinth Wall card from your deck to the hand. At the start of the damage step, if your opponent's monster battles while you control a Labyrinth Wall card, you get to banish this card from the graveyard to destroy that opponent's monster. You can only use each effect once per turn, so ultimately it does become an additional form of terraforming, and then on top of that as well, it does have a very nice kind of battle protection that a lot of opponents might not even care to ask for or may not be familiar with. Then, of course, we've got Destiny Hero. Now, the reason we are playing, not Destiny Hero, sorry, Elemental Hero Prisma. The reason we are playing this is because once per turn, you get to reveal a fusion monster from your extra deck and then send one of the fusion materials whose name is specifically listed on it from the deck to the graveyard. Now, all of the Gate Guardian fusion monsters list Sagan, Kazujin and Suijin. Some of them will just be 2 of them, one of them reveals all 3 of them, but the idea is that off of Plasma, you can reveal anyone you want. Plasma can then basically steal that name of the card that's been sent until the end of the turn, which is really important because it also then puts another name to the graveyard. So you'll have Prisma being 1 name on the board, and then it would have put a 2nd name into the graveyard. The reason that Magician Souls is also still quite good is because Kazujin is a spellcaster, so that can also be Foolish Burial with that as well. So the Prisma just gives you additional ways of being able to kind of cheese out the fusion monsters, and the idea is at the end board you want to be ending with at least 2 of the 2 ones, which is Thunder and Wind, and then Wind and Water. So carrying on, the reason I've put Fawn of Albaz and Cartesia in here is, as I mentioned, we do play Fusion Deployment, so I've kind of gone for a focus on being pure Fusion, and we play only 2 Link monsters in the extra, which you'll see a little bit later on. Now the reason that the Cartesia and the Albaz is so good is because technically you activate fusion deployment and you special summon out Cartesia, you have the ability to quick effect fuse. So this will get out the Kazujins, the Sangar and the Suijins from the hand in order to fuse into their own monsters. On top of that as well, Cartesia does have the ability with herself or even the Destiny hero, Elemental hero Prisma and a dark monster to go into the Blazing Dragon. You could tech in one Proskydian as well, just to give you an additional boss monster that can become extra lines of interruption against your opponent. But that is entirely up to you. I wanted to kind of just show you this engine so that it could be utilized. The same can be said for Albaz. Go in second, being able to activate fusion deployment, special summon out Albaz from the deck, and then discard a card to then contact fuse with an opponent's extra monster. That can then get you into a Mirror Jade, which on top is just an incredibly powerful boss monster for this deck to have. Now you'll see the influence of the branded in the extra deck a little bit more, but it's just one of these ones where I was like, you know, everyone's playing either Dimension Shifter or they're playing Ash Blossoms. I wanted to kind of show you that, you know, utilize fusion deployment to its max capability. If you open up, for example, something like Magician's Souls that can get you a route to Kazujin, plus an Elemental Hero Prisma and a fusion deployment, I know it's a lot of kind of elements to keep in mind, but it means it gives you a different option. Rather than trying to go for a Kazujin, a Sangar or a Suijin, you've got the ability to kind of open it up as much as you want. We're then playing the Run Ryoku Guardian. So if your life points are lower than your opponent's, you get to target one monster you control with Gate Guardian in its original name. Halve your opponent's life points. Oof. Then that monster gains attack equal to your opponent's life points. You can banish this card from the graveyard to add one of your Sagna, Kazujin and Suijins that is banished or in your deck to your hand. So again, it's a search ability. Because you're playing the Elemental Hero Prisma, you're also playing Hero Lives, which will make sure your life points are lower than your opponent's if you want to be activating and resolving this card. And then on top of that as well, you've got the ability to halve your opponent's life points while also being able to push for huge amounts of damage because your Gate Guardian monster will then get a very nice power boost. We're then playing 3 of the brand new quick spell, which is called Double Attack, Wind and Thunder. So if you control a Gate Guardian monster, which obviously all the fusions are, you target one card on the field, destroy it. During your main phase, you can banish this card from the graveyard to add one of your Sanga, Kazujins or Suijins that is banished or in your deck to your hand. So again, you can see more utility that even if you're not going to activate this or if you open up 2 of these, you can send one off of Magician's Souls, get the graveyard effect, and then you can set search out the other one as well. So this is what makes the deck so fun, is it actually has a lot of synergy. It definitely reminisces with the original anime, which I absolutely love. And it's nice little retrains for the deck. Moving on to the second batch of the main deck. So we are playing 3 of the field spell. You saw 1 on the previous one, and this is Labyrinth Wall Shadow. So monsters cannot attack the turn they are summoned except monsters whose original level is 5 or higher. So straight away, your opponent cannot attack with XYZs and they can't attack with Link monsters, which is really, really cool because it gives you a bit of a way to slow the game down even more so. Now, sadly, we are in a bit of a Kashtira format, so this card could actually be utilised in Kashtiras. But for now, it's really good for Gate Guardians. Once per turn during the main phase, you get to place one of your Sagna, Kazujins or Suijins that is banished or in your hand or deck face out into your spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. At the start of your opponent's battle phase, you can target one monster your opponent controls with less than 1600 attack and destroy it. Now keep in mind those are soft once per turn, so if you activate multiple of the Labyrinth Walls, you'll be able to place more of the Sangas, Kazujins or Suijins as well. Then of course fusion deployment, I've already pretty much talked about this. It can special summon out any of your Gate Guardian pieces. It can also special summon out Cartesia and Albaz. So it's entirely up to you. You could even go for a Dragoon route if you wanted to, or just other fusions to utilise it to its max potential. Obviously terraforming for the Labyrinth Wall, and then Sacred Sword of 7 because you are playing 3 of the tank, plus 2 Suijin, 2 Kazujin and 2 1 Sagna. So obviously all of these can be banished as well as your Illusion of Chaos. And having them banished is not the end of the world. Hero Lives we've already talked about. Called by the Grave we've already talked about. Or pretty much is straightforward. And the last card we're playing is Prey of the Jirai Gumo. So special summon this card as a normal monster to your main monster zone in its same column. You can only, this card is also still a trap card. Then you can destroy one monster your opponent controls in this card's column. You can banish this card from the graveyard to add one of your Sagna, Kazujins or Suijins that is banished or on your deck to your hand. So again, you've got the recyclability aspect. This is where you're going to be able to utilize it and maximize its potential off of the back of Magician's Souls. And then that's kind of where you want to be able to utilize it to its max potential and use it as a kind of interruptive trap as well, which is really, really kind of cool. You can cut this down to 2 if you want to. That's entirely up to you. I've just got it into 3 to kind of show you the options that you do have, and you can adapt it as you see fit. Moving on to the extra deck. So I'll talk about the Gate Guardian bits last. I'm just going to explain the Lubellion, the Albion, the Mirror Jade, and the Dust Dragon. It will give you the ability to recycle your Albaz so they can be utilized again. It can also recycle your Cartesia if you're not able to naturally do that as well. There are also targets that can remain in the extra deck to be sent off of the Mirror Jade, and it just gives you a nice little power play. If you want to make these a little bit more consistent for the deck, you can, of course, start adding in more of the branded spells and traps. But do keep in mind that Lubellion and Albion can only do level 8 or lower, so they won't not be able to deal with or make your Gate Guardians, which is a bit of a disappointment, but it works out quite nicely because you then have the ability to recycle this as a mini engine rather than relying on it quite heavily. Linkuriboh and Relinquish Animar, again, pretty straightforward on that one. They are purely in here because they are level 1s, so you can turn your Magician of Souls into them. You've got a defensive option and an offensive option. Then talking about the Gate Guardian card, so we'll talk about Gate Guardian of Wind and Water. This requires specifically Kazujin and Suijin. It must be special summoned from your extra deck by banishing the above cards you control. Once per chain, when your opponent activates a spell or trap or card effect, as a quick effect you get to negate that effect. So this is probably like the best one in my opinion because the others deal with targeting and other aspects, but I still think this one's really, really kind of cool. You can only use this effect of Gate Guardian Wind and Water twice per turn. If this face-up special summon card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, or by opponent's card in general, you get to special summon one of your banished Kazujins or Suijins from the banish zone. So that's really kind of cool to let you recycle it. Moving on to the next one, which is of course Water and Thunder. So again, Suijin and Sagna of Thunder must be special summoned from the extra deck by banishing the above cards you control. Once per chain, quick effect, you get to target one face-up monster your opponent controls, changes attack to 0 until the end of the turn. You can only use each effect, this effect of Gate Guardian twice per turn. If this face-up special summon card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you get to special summon back one of your Suijins or Sagnas. So again, it lets you recycle your materials, which is really, really important. Then the last two of course, will be Thunder and Wind. So again, must be special summoned from the extra deck by banishing the above cards you control. During your main phase, you can add one spell or trap from your deck to your hand that mentions Sagna, Kazujin, and Suijin. So obviously that's how you're going to be able to get into your quick play pop spell really, really consistently. You can only use this effect once per turn. If this face-up card, again, special summon card in its owner's control, leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you get to bring back one of the Kazujins or Sagnas. And then the last one is Gate Guardian Combined. It requires all 3 Sagna, Kazujin, and Suijin, and it must be special summoned from the extra deck by banishing the above cards from your hand, field, and or graveyard. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a card or cards you control, quick effect, you get to negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card. You can only use this effect of Gate Guardian Combined twice, so 3 times per turn. If this face-up special summon card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you get to special on one level 11 or lower Gate Guardian monster from your deck or extra deck, ignoring its summoning condition. So obviously if this one goes, you can pretty much cheese out any of the other ones as well. So it's kind of a really cool deck. The fact that you can pretty much pick up an entire core of Gate Guardian for like £12 on Tier 0 games. I think even on the trade group, people were starting to sell them for about £15, £20 at max for an entire core, which gives them free of everything. Is definitely worth doing if you are a fan of Gate Guardian, if you're a fan of the original anime as well. I definitely think that it's a fun deck to be looking into. And it's kind of why I've put this concept together first, so that I can test it out, trial it out, and then build it a little bit further forward and more specifically later on. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hope it's given you an idea and a concept for your own build. If you have any questions at all, please put them in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. As absolutely always, guys, stay safe and of course, happy dueling.